Hey everyone, Psychopath1 here, welcome back. This is the second time I've recorded this video, so I'm gonna try to make this video even shorter than what I already did. Um, the film I'm gonna be talking about this morning is Leprechaun Origins. Uh, for those wanting to know right off the bat, yes, I enjoyed this movie. I thought it was a very well done film, and I am looking forward to the second film if they do decide to make one. Um, this is a very serious horror film. It's nothing like the original six films. Whereas those films were comedy horror, uh, this one is straight up horror. There are a couple laughs in it, uh, but anyways, I'm gonna try to make this review really short and sweet. It starts off uh, this chase scene between the leprechaun or a leprechaun and this couple. They're they're being violently killed. We don't actually see the leprechaun. We just see it from a POV shot, and them getting pulled into a field and killed. We don't see how they're killed though. We just see them dragged into the field, and they were apparently running to a stone, and we don't find out why until later in the film when we're introduced to our main characters, um, who right after the attack, the title appears, Leprechaun Origins, and we're introduced to our four main characters, Ben, David, Jenny, and Sophie. Sophie is our main character, Ben is her boyfriend, Jenny is another one of our main characters, and David is her boyfriend. And uh, they're backpacking through the country of Ireland, and what ends up happening is a guy offers them uh, an invite to see a magical, not a magical, but some architecture, since they're uh, backpacking in Ireland to see famous landmarks and landscapes, and he offers to show them a piece of landscape and piece of architecture, piece of Irish history, and they decide, okay, we'll go along and see it. Uh, and then he says, oh, it's going to be a 7 hour hike, and then the boyfriend of Sophie is like, 7 hours? Don't you think that's a little steep, babe? And she's like, oh, yeah, a little bit, but I'd love to check it out. And Dave and Jenny, who are really into landscapes and uh, other stuff, decide, okay, we want to go. And Dave shows, show of hands, who wants to go? And Jenny ends up raising her hand. Okay, show of hands, who doesn't want to go? And Sophie doesn't raise her hand, and neither does Ben. And Ben's just like, hey, what do you want to do? And Sophie's like, okay, I'll go for it. And so it's settled. The Irishman and his son end up taking them all the way out into the middle of the woods to a cabin so they can catch some sleep and go on the walk to uh, the landmark. And uh, something ends up rustling into the field, and we find out later that it's Leprechaun, or a Leprechaun, or the Leprechaun, whatever you prefer. And he ends up shooting at it and lying and saying, "Oh, it was just a wild boar. No worries. You get that a lot in Ireland." And so they end up going into the cabin. The guy leaves, but before he leaves a piece of gold in the form of a watch, a golden watch, uh, as bait for the leprechaun. So he's working with the leprechaun, that shady little bastard. Uh, Shady little bastard human being. And his son's like, "Are you sure we should leave them here, Dad? It's very dangerous for us to leave them here." And he's like, "Son, you have to grow brave and realize that there is a process between us and keeping that beast away from us in our village." And so later that night, a little giggle ends up occurring. Dave is making out with Jenny, and he ends up falling asleep while she's on top of him. And he ends up dropping his beer, and she's like, "Babe, babe, really?" And then she ends up getting off of him and ends up going to sleep, and he wakes up and is like, "Babe, what? What did I do?" And then I just chuckle, and she ends up saying, "Oh, nothing." And then she goes out into the middle of the cabin, and Ben is talking to Sophie. Well, Sophie is trying to talk to Ben about something, and he's like, "Oh, okay." And then she's like, "I just don't want you to leave. Do you think you can resist all this?" And he's like, uh, "Are you sure I'm gonna miss you?" And she's like, and then she ends up going to sleep. And I'm like, what a dickhead. What did she see in him? I'll never know. Sorry, I'm checking the time on the video. Like I said, I want this to be short. Then, long story short, the leprechaun ends up finding the gold watch and ends up attacking the people inside, our main characters. And the main characters end up finding a way out of the cabin because it turns out the bastard locked them in. The bastard human being who showed them the cabin and everything locked them in from the outside, and they find out all that stuff and end up finding a way out of the cabin right after the leprechaun ends up chasing them all through the cabin, which the cabin wasn't really big to begin with, ends up pulling half a piece of soap, not Sophie, I think Sophie's ear off, but not enough to like injure her or anything, but pretty much pulled her earring off and like sliced her ear. And pretty much you get gore galore in this movie. No rhyme intended, by the way. Um, like you see some bloody kills. I'm not gonna spoil the kills. You'll have to see the movie. Hopefully, this sounds interesting for the people who haven't seen this movie yet. Do not compare this to the original series. This is its own film. It doesn't try to be what the previous films were. It tries to be its own film, and I think it works. The Leprechaun looks absolutely amazing. I don't see what the big complaints are about this Leprechaun looking so shitty. It doesn't. I thought it looked really cool. The creature design, he's pretty much got sharp teeth, um, an, like an elongated face. Uh, he's really tiny, but at the same time pretty damn menacing. He growls, and you cannot tell uh, if it's a real creature or a man in the suit. Like, that's how good the creature looks. And you can't even tell it's Hornswoggle inside a costume. But it's literally Hornswoggle inside this monstrous costume uh, with puppet-like arms, so it looks like he's got claws. And he walks and growls just like a creature would. And I've never seen a leprechaun look like this before, and I think that's a pretty cool design. Like I said, it didn't try to be like the other films. If you didn't like the original films, but you want to check this one out, by all means, check it out. I think if you like serious horror films, you might like this film. It does steal a line from the first film, but other than that, it's its own film. Um, the kills, if you like your kills gory, the gore is there. If you like likable characters, the likable characters are there. I thought Sophie was a likable character. I thought Jenny was a likable character. I thought Dave was a pretty likable character. So, all except Ben was a likable character. And we find out why the guy was working with the leprechaun or a leprechaun the whole time. It's to keep the leprechaun from invading their village because apparently they end up stealing gold from the leprechaun in order to make amends with the leprechaun. He ends up bringing tourists to the cabin to feed the leprechaun, which we never actually see the leprechaun eat people. We just see them murder people. Uh, but the the guy's son has a change of heart and decides to help out the characters, our main characters, but he helps them out too late. They've already been trapped inside a different house and everything. They find a house which they think is home to people who are going to help them, but it's just an empty house filled with items that the bastards took from uh, other people throughout the years. And they end up finding a book, and Sophie ends up reading it and finds out what exactly this creature is. It happens to be a leprechaun who survives solely on the suffering and the powers of the gold it gives them. And they end up trying to figure out a way to stop the leprechaun, uh, by finding a stone. A giant stone in the middle of a field, which is where the couple at the beginning of the film were headed. Apparently, this stone has a power to stop the leprechaun, like keep it away from the village where the people live. Uh, but I'm not gonna spoil the ending. But let's just say it's worth checking out if you're into this kind of stuff. If you're not into like a little bit of over the top violence and everything, you won't really like this film. But if you're able to leave your brain out at the door and just enjoy the film for what it is, I think you'll have a good time. I give this film an 8 out of 10. I really, really enjoyed this flick. By itself, it is a pretty damn kick-ass film. And I enjoy WWE horror. And I'm looking forward to See No Evil 2 when it comes out. It's made by the Saska sisters, the same people who made American Mary, which I didn't care much for, but I thought it was a well done film. I just didn't care a whole lot for it. They made Dead Hooker in the Trunk, which I still haven't seen. And they're the ones who are going to be making a story in ABCs of Death 2. And they're the ones directing See No Evil 2. So, anyways, that's all I have to say about uh, Leprechaun Origins. This is Psychopath1c, signing off. Catch you later.